People come out of their homes and clapped and bashed pots and pans for the NHS every Thursday at 8 p.m. Applause that ran across the UK for 10 weeks during the first national lockdown in 2020. Little did they know, that behind the closed hospital doors, where no prying eyes of the loved ones of those left to its mercy were allowed, a protocol had been put in place that would change the lives of thousands of people forever. Standard treatments using antibiotics for lungs and chest infections was stopped. Patients were instructed to isolate at home with no treatments. And some then developed pneumonia that could have been prevented with antibiotics. Upon arrival at hospital, some were sedated with opioids. This caused respiratory depression, and then put on a ventilator. And the rest is history. A history they hope you will forget.
Critical care doctors say many patients placed on these machines don't survive.
The outcome for a patient who has to be ventilated if they have COVID-19 is horrific.
Chinese researchers studying critically ill patients on ventilators in Wuhan found in a group of 32, only one person survived. The average room air is 21%. After several days on a ventilator, high levels of oxygen can become toxic, damage the lungs, and lead to other serious complications.
Dr. Richard Levitan, who recently spent 10 days working on a COVID ward, had this to say.
Got 86, 87 patients, one coming down, so 87.
And how many of those are on ventilators?
I think 84.
So high.
So the vast majority.
Now, if you deteriorate, will you like us to put you to sleep and put a tube in your mouth and put you on breathing support? You're not going to deteriorate. That's good thinking. But there is a...
Can't function normally because he's sedated and being kept alive by a ventilator.
The government had asked engineering firms to help build thousands of new medical ventilators.
Why didn't you want to go on a ventilator?
I didn't want to be out here. And I didn't know if I'd wait for it.
If you're on the board of a care home company, a pandemic is one of the things that you think about as a potential damage to your business because of the number of older people it's going to take out of the system. Curiously, ripping off the sticking plaster, in that hospital I'm thinking about that has 92 delayed discharges, a pandemic would be quite useful because then your hospital would work because these people would be taken out of the system,
Every single patient here, except one, is sedated.
There are 13 patients on this ward, 12 are on intubators and they're in a coma. The doctors are using ventilators to keep them alive. Row after row, bed after bed, with some of the sickest patients in the region. There are men and women, young and old, black and white. Most are sedated and intubated.
But they know more patients will die. At the start of filming, they had lost 6. By the time we finished a few hours later, it was 7.
We typically use ventilators to treat what's called respiratory failure. That is, we use the ventilator to do the work that the patient's muscles can no longer do because they're too tired to do it. These patients' muscles work fine. This method being widely adopted at this very moment in every hospital in the country, which aims to increase pressure on the lungs in order to open them up, is actually doing more harm than good. And that the pressure we are providing to lungs, we may be providing to lungs that cannot stand it, that cannot take it, and that the ARDS that we are seeing, that the whole world is seeing, may be nothing more than lung injury caused by the ventilator.
These are the difficult decisions made between patients and doctors. Getting wired up and plugged in is grueling. Getting wired up and plugged in.
In these 9 days, I have seen things I have never seen before. In treating these patients, I have witnessed medical phenomenon that just don't make sense in the context of treating a disease that is supposed to be a viral pneumonia. And this is the disease ARDS, for which in the next 2 to 6 weeks, 100,000 Americans might be put on a ventilator, and that we are operating under a medical paradigm that is untrue. In short, I believe we are treating the wrong disease, and I fear that this misguided treatment will lead to a tremendous amount of harm to a great number of people in a very short time.
Little did they know that behind the closed hospital doors, where no prying eyes of the loved ones of those left to its mercy were allowed, a protocol had been put in place that would change the lives of thousands of people forever. And the rest is history, a history they hope you will forget.